Having some problems with my live feature. I'm having no one here. Everybody was waiting in the other room. So I guess I will wait. Well, hello. Seems like there we go. I needed some kind of encoder, and I didn't have time to download it and figure out how to use it. Because there's like 4 different ways you can go live on YouTube, apparently. And for some reason, my dumb ass decided to try to use the most complex. So old school we go. How you guys doing? Well, I liked one of my friends on Facebook. So, who wants to start our conversation? Any questions? Just trying to figure out how to work with my YouTube here. So, hello, Madam Dreamweaver and Patchwork Blue. So this is kind of like a hello, comedic witch. This is just kind of like a get to know me. Hello, I can never pronounce that right. Yamanu. Yeah, I was a. Apparently, there's like 4 different ways I can upload to YouTube, and one needs an encoder, so I need to download that. So I just decided to go old school, but it killed my last RUL, so I had to start this one. So yes, I actually whenever somebody subscribes to my channel, Miss Madam Dreamweaver, I tend to go, or somebody leaves a comment, I tend to go to their YouTube, and I discovered that who you was before when you changed your name. So, who wants to ask me questions about whatever? I mean, what do you guys want to talk about? We could talk about anything you guys want. Well, I guess I'll figure it out here. So I'm 41. Oh, how long I've been practicing? Okay. Well, originally I started practicing, I guess, when I was 9 years old. I'm 41 now. And what first interested me in the craft, thank you for breaking the ice, comedic witch. Um, I I was 9 years old, and I had some, well, younger, and I had some experiences with seeing spirits. And it just so happens that I went to my mom took me to the pastor of the church at the time, and and make a long story short, it was always it's because I must be a bad little boy or something. I'm doing something wrong to be subjected to that. Uh, in truth, what ended up happening, I guess, make a long story short, I came across a book in a school library out of all things, and it was an elementary school library, and it was called Meet the Werewolf. And to make a long story short, that I in the back, it was talking about movie monsters, myth, and supposedly magic amulets and magic techniques to become a werewolf, such as drinking rainwater out of a wolf's print, getting a wolf belt, a pelt or a belt made from wolf skin given to you by the devil, all that kind of silliness. And it had an incantation to summon it, bring a spirit, which I performed. Nothing showed up until 3 days later. Then I saw a wolf-like entity in my sister's room telling me to come here. Scared the hell out of me. And that was my first invocation. The spirit didn't manifest till 3 days later and scared the hell out of me. And my mom came around the corner because I was screaming, and she did her usual, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke and bind you stuff. But that started my interest in evocation spirits, which is what I try to do most of my magic. I focus on meditating on communication with spirits. So basically, my first was an evocation to a spirit when I was 9 years old. Long story short, a couple of these other questions here. My favorite form of divination, I'd have to say, if it's not trying to divine with a spirit, I like to scry and tarot cards. And again, of course, what first interested me in magic and the witchcraft was being a little bit smarter than the average little kid. So when my pastor told me I see spirits because of a certain reason, I wanted to investigate that myself and kind of find out a lot of misinformation from there. My favorite form of magic would probably be kitchen witchery. I firmly believe, and I was actually going to make a video about this, but I firmly believe that everybody should start from being a kitchen witch, because everybody eats food and everybody has things to flavor their food with, and the herbs and spices used in there are usually used in magic as well. And it's best to start out by working with what you got, and adding a platform, I guess you could say a foundation, and then start branching out from there. And that's basically how I memorized a lot of my herbs, is that I used most of the herbs I use in cooking, and then it moved on from what I had in my backyard or surrounding forest to other exotic things such as the tears of Persia, or other tonka beans, things that most people don't actually usually have. Okay, I got a couple of comedic witches giving me a lot of good questions. I'm going to continue with those in a second, but I'm going to answer, what do I think about Jesus? Okay, I am a Jesus mythicist first. Now, that's not to mean that I don't believe there was a character named Jesus, but what we can tell through archaeological findings, there was a Jewish historian called Philo of Alexandria that made note that there were Jews worshiping a spirit in the stars named Jesus, or Joshua. Now, it's important to understand that in the Hebrew language, just like any language, you have the Spanish people saying Jesus instead of Jesus, because they pronounce the J with a H, right? Like jalapeno. Well, something similar like that. Jesus' original name is Yeshua. And then further back in their dialect, Yeshua was Yahshua or Joshua. Okay. The Hebrew language does not have a J. It's always Yah. So when you read in the Old Testament, it speaks of a character named Joshua. His name was also considered Jesus. Same name, different pronunciation. But anyways, these Jews were worshiping a Jesus in the stars, which would let the devil kill him underneath the moon where the devil is supposed to live. And now the reason why this is important is because this is a Jewish sect that believed that the death of an angel named Jesus died for their sins. And this happened several hundred years before Jesus, the man, supposedly was walking around doing the same thing. So there was a pre-existing myth about an astrological Jesus. And then, of course, later it was probably humorized, or a real man named Jesus decided to pick up the myth and say, oh, yeah, I'm actually that angel. So I believe Jesus is most likely definitely started out as a myth. But if there was a real Jesus figure taking on that role later, I don't know. But I do not believe he was the actual literal Son of God. Let's see, go through these comments again. What causes a spirit to stay like that, in your opinion? Stay like what? Okay, I think that's an arbitrary amount of time. Just say 6 months. I mean, as you know, that if you look in other folklore, spirits stay around for seven days or something like that. Or one Christian myth is that spirits stayed close to the body to await the resurrection. So the spirits are always there by the graves. I firmly believe, from what I practice, is that sometimes you can't contact a spirit because it might be in a form of sleep. They don't know they're dead. They're like in the in between dream world, or they might be. I do believe in reincarnation, or they might be reincarnated, or they just might not know they're dead, or they know but they haven't chose to cross over. And again, I believe any belief, even asking spirits, you get different answers. So it's probably heavily based on one's belief. When you die, you expect to see Buddha, you see Buddha. You die and expect to see Jesus, you see an entity or a thought form in the form of Jesus playing out your afterlife. I do believe animals have spirits. Um, I do believe animals have spirits. Well, just to use a Christian example, because I was just talking about Jesus, the same Hebrew word for breath, which is described for a human soul, is also described for an animal. They have a breath. So it's the same word. It's a good possibility that it's meaning that they both have spirits. However, overall, everything that is alive is giving off electromagnetic energy. This bioelectromagnetic energy is what is generated by life. When you die, that moves on. Energy is eternal. It cannot be created or destroyed according to physics. So the energy that kept you alive is still going. So I do believe animals have a soul, but I do believe the more complex you are, that's why we have like humans having the divine consciousness. We have more control over what happens to us when we die. A cat and a dog, they have the intelligence of a 5-year-old child, and maybe even less in some cases. But they move on. They are probably more likely reincarnated. And of course, when you're dead, you think about that animal. The information it's just like that, like copying from one hard drive to the next. Their essence or of what they were could be easily downloaded, no matter if their energy is another body and it's the consciousness. So I do believe animals have life after death. Let's see. And I do think frankincense is a great incense, Mrs. Dreamweaver. Yes, depending breath is the spirit of God. The wind, they didn't know that it was just particulate matter, so even they thought the wind was just the breath of God. It was quite similar when in their creation myth, when Yeshua or Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, depending on whatever translation, he breathed life in. Basically, we were created by a golem spell. God made us out of clay, breathe life into us, and that life is the spirit. Which again, even though in the kosher Judaism, obviously they think that your soul is separate than God's soul, but in esoteric understanding, it is one and the same. Everything is mind, everything is God, everything is an aspect of God or gods. The universe is split into three parts. You have positive energy, negative energy, and neutral energy, right? So you have a triune almost in all different religions. Yeah, see, that's right. Physics is science and not magic. It's very important to understand that when we consider as above as below, what is above us is heavily linked to what is here. So even though science is not technically magic, it runs on a similar principle, like a reflection. So like that's how we understand what crystals are used for, right? Like a lodestone. A lodestone is a magnet. So in magic, it attracts things to you. It's in your understanding, I guess, if you're close to the Christian mindset, Jesus says, "What you bind on earth, you bind in heaven." It's basically the same thing as what you bind here on earth, you bind on the other side, as above, as below. And most sciences that we have, physics included, would not really exist if it wasn't for its magical counterpart, which came first. Astrology. If it wasn't for astrology, you wouldn't have astronomy. If it wasn't for alchemy, you probably wouldn't have chemistry, stuff like that. Yeah, and that's a very good point. I can never Yamanu. I just call Yamanu. It's a very good point. A lot of people understand that as science, magic is a form of science that we just don't understand yet. Now, and let's take this into quantum physics. What if I told you that there's little small parts of matter, right, that can be in two places at one time? You can't do that, but what you are made of can. So you have quantum entanglement, where one particle, if you spin it one way, if it's entangled with another particle light years away without being contacted, it spins the opposite. So what or Einstein called this spooky physics, or action from a distance. Particles can be in two places at once. Like I said, they pop in and out of existence. Sounds or teleport even. Sounds very magical to me. So everything that wizards, in fantasy talk about disappearing, reappearing, being in two places at one time. It's interesting how physics is actually discovering many of these scientific magic legends to be actually scientific fact on a subatomic level. Universe is blinking. Well, I mean, yes, we can just make up stuff. Part of Hermetic's teachings is that everything is mind, right? Your brain is basically supposedly the small version of the big version, which is the universe. And again, physics, one of the interesting things that we have discovered is that quantum particles also seem to know when they're being observed. And when they create certain experiments, they get different results with certain experiments depending on the expectation of the scientist. So there is some scientific evidence to prove that, in some way, even in a scientific way, we create our own reality. And that's what magic has always been taught, is that we are in control of our reality within reason. Obviously, if you jump off a building, you're going to have a very bad day. You're not going to fly if you cast a magic spell to fly. But so yeah, to some extent, magic is the manifestation of synchronicities, right? Bullshit. Well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. High magic versus low magic. Well, there's two different main understandings of this. The traditionally is that, not traditionally, I'm sorry. One of the main forms that I was misinformed when I was younger is that high magic is more powerful, which it can be. But of course, it's up to the witch, right? How much energy is she putting out, or he or she putting out? So you could have somebody in high magic and somebody in sympathetic magic or low magic be more powerful because how much energy they're putting out. Okay, the real reason why it's high magic considered low magic, believe it or not, is actually tied to class. Low magic was mostly sympathetic magic because it was easy for people to perform. They didn't require all kinds of silly shit. High magic, well, if you want a sun talisman, you've got to have the money to buy the metal. And metal of any kind was expensive. So, like, if you're going to practice high magic, you got to be of high society, got some money to spend so you can buy the exotic metals and so forth to make it so forth. So that's actually why it's high magic versus low magic. It's not more powerful than either one. It depends on the which. Relatively, you'd have to. You're just speaking words. What about relatively, for fuck's sake? Well, that all depends. You got to be a little bit, if you're going to be critical, you got to at least give me more information on what you need to say. Okay. Well, yes. I think Einstein, obviously he was very smart, and most of his theories has not been disproved. What is interesting is that at first Einstein was wrong. Okay, he didn't believe the universe works the way it works that we know now. He didn't believe that particles could do certain things. That sunlight was both a wave and a particle. It sounded like a contradiction. All right, so he just didn't believe it. He actually did not believe it. It wasn't until he was proven wrong that he finally accepted it. His famous expression was, and again, he was a deist or an atheist, but he used God as a metaphor for the universe. That God doesn't play dice with the universe, because when you look at physics on the subatomic level, it did things that even he did not believe, and that's why he called it spooky physics, or action at a distance. He didn't understand or believe in quantum entanglement, and that's actually what's probably creating our reality. Is that these particles that are intertwined, interwoven, or connected, is creating a fabric of space time. No, I do not consider myself a medium. Matter of fact, most of the spirits that I believe that I've seen was not living people originally. I believed I saw mostly demonic or mischievous spirits, and I believe everybody is I guess you could say a medium. Uh, but the more you practice, and the more, especially if you astral travel, um, that your innate ability to see spirits is opened up more than it was back to when you was a child. Uh, okay, hold on. I was going to answer Dreamweaver real quick. Yes, I do believe cats. We've had one of our cats pass away, and wide awake, we're sitting there wide awake, and we could feel and see the bed covers go down shortly, within days after he died. I mean, it disappeared after a while, probably to a new reincarnation, or just off to wherever animals go. But yes, I do believe we've had some animal visitation, especially from cats. As we have multiple cats. I do believe in the God particle. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the God particle has actually been discovered, the Higgs boson. And how this works for people who might be listening who don't know how it works. Imagine shooting a gun and it goes through the air, it goes real fast, and then it hits water and it slows down. The Higgs boson creates a field which slows down particles at different rates. And that is why you have physical energy, because as it travels through the Higgs boson field, it slows down and becomes physical. So let's see. What's the difference between an egregor and a spirit, or a non-human spirit? Well, depends on if you believe in a God. If you believe in a God, we're basically egregores. We are his thought form, or its thought form, or her thought form. An egregor or golem is a fully created human entity. I do also believe that there might be spirits out there that can create their own egregores or spirits. But the biggest difference is that one was created by the universe or God, and one is created by human consciousness. Is Yamanu still here? Yeah. Yeah, it could very possibility. Albert Einstein probably stole some ideas. I mean, I wouldn't put it past anybody. I mean, hell, wasn't it Thomas Edison? Edison, didn't he steal some ideas from somebody else, or had somebody else? Oh, well, I've encountered spirits. I've been touched by them. Um, for me, I think it all varies on that spirit's intent, or the need to materialize. A lot of times it's cold because the entity is pulling energy. Coldness is caused by lack of heat. The lack of heat means lack of energy because something is sucking it out. So I do believe that both demonic and human spirits uh, suck energy, and it can be cold or hot. My hand passed through an entity which I believed to be demonic because I felt fear from it. That I was afraid of it when I was a kid, and when I ran through it, I felt it's like going through pudding, cold or warmish, a little bit above room temperature pudding, and it was like gooey. And then I felt physical. I've been picked up and thrown across the room by physical hands. Wasn't materialized. And then I felt something like cool electricity. Uh, so it's really, I think it's just a case by case basis, really. Um, I'm going to answer your question, Miss Patchwork Blue, in a second. I'm going to talk to Yamanu. Yes, I do. Chaos magic. I like to call it the Jeet Kune Do of the occult. Just like Bruce Lee, he studied many martial arts and picked what worked for him and what he thought was practical, and made his own art, Jeet Kune Do. I believe that everybody practices chaos magic if they have that call that name or not. Like one of the main practices in chaos magic is sigils, right? And they always say, well, this is a new way of doing things. Well, no, human beings have been making and drawing symbols for since before written history, and you can't tell me that they didn't practice magic. So even the pentagram is a sigil. So the new ways of creating sigils, like maybe using the English alphabet, but sigil magic, for example, is not an invention of chaos magic like a lot of people I hear talk about. But I believe chaos magic. I believe every eclectic is technically a chaos magician because they will use what works, and you have some things that are there because of traditions that were put forth by cultures or even a religious limitation, when that is probably just completely arbitrary. Yeah, so it's still use what works for you. It might work for somebody else, but if it don't work for you, you move on. And then how can I tell the difference between types of spirits? Well, a lot of times with me, especially when I've encountered evil spirits, a foul smell usually appears. Or now you understand there's a difference between being feared, being afraid, and being startled. Uh, if I jump out in front of you, you might say, "Whoa, hey, Azrael," and get startled and almost like have a sensation of fear, but you get a calm. And then there are times if I jump out and you don't know me and I'm holding a dagger, you're going to be startled and be afraid. So when you see spirits, a lot of times these spirits will tell you just by the energy they give off how you feel. And with Christians, I've noticed that just because they feel startled, they automatically assume it's evil. Right. So even in their own pantheon, you have these angels, they fear not, don't have no fear of me. It's because it's the startled, because they can't tell the difference between startled and being afraid. So it usually some pretty foul smells usually accompany negative energy. Obviously, it could try to make itself look negative to scare you. And if it's trying to scare you, it's going to be negative by default, in my opinion, because it's trying to feed off you, or usually. But again, it's usually how you feel after the initial sighting. I've seen spirits. I've been startled, but then completely calm and just like, hey, what's up? And so it's one of those things that you will end up knowing, and you will feel, literally will feel. Um, Yes, I do. By following some old traditions and keeping them within the confines to appreciate someone's culture or an ancient person's culture, I do feel like the Viking culture. I mean, I'm supposedly related to Leif Erikson, according to my mother, and I don't think that's been 100% verified. However, on my father's side, we all come from Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. But also true in Viking magics and stuff. Norse German magics, I guess you would say. I do feel a strong affinity towards, and of course Taoism. I study Taoism, and they have a magic tradition, and I feel great, and I feel empowered by the culture. Um, I don't. What about this insane moon? Is there anything to it in your opinion, or is it just Jesus? Um, are you talking about the myth that Philo of Alexandria was talking about the moon? If that's what you're talking about, the place where Satan is supposed to rule in the heavens is literally um, right below the moon, right around the area of the moon, and the morning star arises above it. And the rising star, or the light bringer, the light bearer, also called Lucifer in Latin, and in the New Testament, Jesus is also called the light bearer, the light bringer. So he was associated also, probably that the morning star was probably the angel that they believed in rising above uh, the moon, I guess, because first thing you see in the morning, light bringer. What are my views on pop culture magic? Um, again, when people believe things, it creates an energy field, right? It might not be conscious energy, but it's energy. And I believe just as like the spirits of the Goetia, one of the spirits I work with is Bathan, and he's supposedly riding on a pale horse with a serpent for a tail. Does he ever appear to me on a horse? No. Does he appear to me with a tail? No. But I also believe this description in this book of old magic is a metaphor. That his appearance for how they appear, it may be metaphor or just subjective to individuals. So if someone looks at the goddess Bastet as Catwoman, I don't see a problem with that because it's the same old energy, same old concept being channeled through different vessels. So I think pop culture magic, and I have used it. I even had a video about it. But pop culture figures, just like Catholics pray to Mary or Saint Joseph to sell a house. I have petitioned certain people like Freddie Mercury for people to have eased suffering from people with HIV. Well, I mean, if they have HIV and they're sick, I consider him a saint, and it might not be cured, but some of the suffering be removed. The actress Heather O'Rourke, which as the little blonde girl from the Poltergeist movies, we're here, right? I petitioned her when my wife was in the hospital for the same thing that killed her, right? A bowel obstruction. My wife has her digestive system is just all fucked up, and her organs aren't even in the right place anymore. And so the surgery was very dangerous. So I petitioned her, Heather O'Rourke. She came to me in a dream saying she will be fine. I woke up in the room. Angel was in surgery longer than she was supposed to because they had to dig deeper to remove part of her colon. She's fine. She's been fine for several years. I pray or petition certain people who died or was affected by something just like a Catholic saint. Carol Ann, yes, Carol Ann. Um, The one I'm about, do you believe there is a power through your ancestors' path? Yes. However, I also believe in past lives. Who the fuck is anybody to say that you were white in every single incarnation? Doubt it. So I believe that you have an ancestral path, but you don't have to belong to that ancestral path, especially if you don't identify with that uh, ancestral path. I mean, again, most of my family, my wife, my mom, for example, perfect example. You know, she was very paranoid about magic, but she had magic beliefs in forms of divination. She believed that if he was in a field with a sheep and a sheep looked a certain way, Jesus was trying to tell you something. So she was practicing magic, and she did tell me that there's a part of her family that were gypsies. You know, reading tarot cards, crystal balls, and Romanian. You know, I have yet to get me my DNA kit, but I do believe that yes, there's ancestral paths, but you are a growing individual, perhaps growing from many different lifetimes. And because of that, it'd be silly to only think that you came from the same lineage. If reincarnation existed, I'm pretty sure I was an Asian person a long time ago. Um, but yeah, in a past life. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you're white, you know, black, don't matter, Chinese. I serve Amaterasu, which is the sun goddess of Japan, right? And Shinto, sorry, the Shinto faith. But you know, so who are we? Whenever an energy calls to us, if it's a god or a nymph or who knows, right? Who are we to tell them, oh, you can't do that because you weren't of a certain birthright? I think that is the most silliest thing that people could ever say to you, that you can't practice Cometicism because you're white. Matter of fact, some new scientific evidence shows that there were some white people in Egypt at the time too. They might have been visitors. Who knows? Might even, if it's to believe, maybe some of the royalty was mixed. So that cultural crap, yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, we need that DNA kit. I wouldn't mind having a DNA kit. But yeah, you know, speaking more about that thing, I have a friend, little black friend who's here. I don't say the name or how old they are, but um, you know, he loves the Nordic traditions, and he has. There's a difference. You know, you have Asatru, which is a reconstruction, people reconstructing the old pagan traditions, and then you have Wotanism, sometimes called Odinism, which are a little bit, not a little bit, they're very racist. You know, and sometimes you can't tell the difference because they are all claiming the same God and from the same tradition. But again, who is anybody to tell a God or you that you can't do something or they can't do something? That's the whole part of free will, and that's what we're here to exercise. So if you feel an affinity towards something that's not a part of your culture, as long as you show it with respect, no one should be a Satan. No one should be an adversary to try to stop somebody from growing as an individual. Anyway, any more questions? Um, any that I might have missed? Universe, okay, let's see. A lot of questions, but I might have missed something. Techniques for spirit contact. Well, of course, I have several videos on that, especially during my necromantic videos. There, understand. Let's give it a little thought experiment. You're a child. You're told you can't do something or something don't exist. Your mind is very open. Now, you could be different kinds of reasons for that. Oh, you're free. You're fresh spirit from the veil, so you still have a taste of the other side, and you grow up and you forget about it or you lose it, or you're told you can't do it, so you shut those parts down, of your brain, depending on. I think it might be a mixture of both, or other theories. One of the things that helped me was actually with my visualizations, and trying to teach my brain. You see, again, most of what you experience gets bypassed by the brain. Okay, your brain only processes a certain amount of sound, a certain amount of sight. All right, and your brain literally disregards half of what was going on. That way, you don't have a sensory overload. So your brain is actually told to dismiss things, on only pay attention to the most important. And this is one reason why you might see a shadow move from the eye. You think it's a spirit. Okay, but you might see a shadow move or a person move from the corner of your eye, and you know it's a person. That is why your brain will your brain will always mistake a shadow for a ghost or a person, but you'll never mistake a person for a ghost. Really, if you're really paying attention, you're not going to. It's just not going to. So you have to teach your brain to see things that are not technically there, if that makes sense. They're there, but they're at a different frequency. So you're all the visible light that you see, everything that just registers, and that spirit could be there and it don't get processed. So believe it or not, one of the techniques that's actually in the necromancy videos I do is that you sit and you look at the shadows. You just turn off all the lights. You're relaxing, you have your eyes open, and you visualize a shell or an outline of what you like when you're in evocation, when you're in summoning a spirit, where it would be, its head, where would its head be, where is its shoulders be. And once you see that, you just keep on looking at that visualization, and all of a sudden something interesting is going to happen. Especially if you practice scrying, you're going to start seeing the outline that you visualized. And then of course that will be the template that the spirit will manifest in. So part of it is visualizing that you already see it, not in your head. I mean, yes, you see that in your head, but literally trying to see it outside your body. And the more you visualize, and you'll start to see a little shape take form, kind of like scrying, and that's focusing your energy in a certain location. And that's where the spirit will manifest. If you're trying to manifest it in a physical form. So, should I get a Ouija board? I have one. I don't really use it a lot. It's more gimmicky. The Ouija board, it uses the ideomotor effect. Okay, it's your body has this ability to make movements without consciously making them move, and it is this ability to move without you controlling it, which allows another consciousness to kind of step in and control it. So it's valid, but too many people pretend it's a game. They just say, okay, let's go jump on the Ouija board. There's no preparation, there's no cleansing, there's no adding of protection. And then after they do the Ouija board, there's no cleansing, there's no banishing. It's dangerous because, or it can be dangerous because it doesn't follow the proper science of evocation. So if you do that, you should be safe. Yes and no. A lot of times these spirits will manifest however they want to see them. But when you're trying to make it manifest, part of the incantation, actually you are commanding the spirit to appear before you in a calm and human form, to not be horrific, so not to startle you or offend you. So I mean, it'll take the form, whatever if you have a pre-thought, it might show up like that. But like I said, Bathan, I say the same thing. The description of the spirit gives it a description how it appears, but to me, it appears as a kind of like a 24-year-old with like black hair and usually wearing a black robe with white trim. So, and that's nowhere in any notebook. It's just how he appears to me, and I didn't choose that. But it could be my subconscious. He could be borrowing of that, or it could, again, Aleister Crowley believed a lot of these spirits were inside the pineal gland, and I don't fully agree with that either. But of course, even Aleister Crowley had problems manifesting spirits. He would see an outline, but that would be it, and it would disappear. But he was a great occultist, but he had his own opinions on that, which I don't agree with. Well, Dreamweaver, she says, I just have to remind you that you in my mind made me realize that I am divine, and I will never forget that. Thank you. And well, I'm glad if everybody watches my videos and think I'm a dumbass, I don't really care. So I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing it for me, if that makes sense. I'm doing this because I need a platform to speak. I'm living in the Bible Belt, and I've counted about at least 9 people that I have lived here listening to me, and they've actually walked away from Christianity. So I'm a great anti-apologist, I guess. But even I don't know what religion you actually are, Miss Dreamweaver, but even the Bible says your divinity. In the book of Psalms, it says, ye do you not know that you are gods, talking about you. If this is God, and we make him in our image, we're divinity. We're made into God's image. So and matter of fact, even in the Garden of Eden, they kicked us out, right? In this mythos, so we wouldn't live forever to become like us gods. The gods didn't want, or God, but in the ancient Hebrew is Elohim, which is plural, which literally means the gods, did not want us to be immortal, but yet we have an afterlife to make us immortal with. Anyway, yes, everything that we can see. Let's take magic, set it aside. Let's say it don't even exist, or if it does, it doesn't matter. In the end, scientifically, what we can prove is that you are recycled material. Everything is. The whatever is making your right hand, whatever particles made your right hand, could have been the part of a triceratops's butt, or it could have been an eagle. We're all recycled. We are the universe. The universe recycles energy. Everything. We are the universe that created us. We are the universe experiencing ourselves, and that's the most coolest thing. And if you look at all major religions, you always seem to have all many gods, but you'll usually have 3 main ones, or subjectively. And again, the universe is separated into 3 forms of energy. I mean, I'm not talking about dark matter or dark energy. I'm talking about, you have the polarities, positive, negative, and neutral, and all energy can fall in one of those 3 stages. So the universe is a triune being, and again, it responds to our thought. Look up the double slit experiment, where the particles change their behavior based on human observance. So the universe knows it's being watched by another consciousness. Anyway, so yeah, you are divinity. Hello, Sebastian. Let's see. Let me catch up with some of these questions real quick. Yes, Yamanu, that's correct. A mirror gazing, black mirror, crystal ball. When you see your face, your face acts as a template for things to build on. It's easier for spirits to have something to work with. But yeah, that's exactly how that works. It might not be. Your talent of talking to comedic witchcraft. One of the things I learned is that a lot of people, when they get my sister, she saw spirits, but she don't see spirits anymore, because she scares us. She's scared of them. When I start talking my stuff around, and she backs away. She doesn't, and she hasn't seen it. Maybe her brain, because of her fear or lack of belief. I don't think you're afraid. You have a lack of belief on certain things or experience, because you're a scientific minded lady. So you believe in magic because you've seen it work for you. You haven't seen that many spirits, so you don't know if they're a trick of the brain or what's on. So that makes sense. The more you dabble in it, the more it will happen. My mother always said I probably had this gift, and I don't believe I have a gift. But if you look into the old folklore, let's see, I was actually born dead. When I came out of my mother's womb, the cord was wrapped around my neck, and I was dead. The doctor had to unravel it and give me mouth to mouth and bring me back. So I was born dead, so maybe I had a connection to the spirit world, which is some people say. I was also born with part of the uterus lining, and I'm not just talking about the placenta. My mother's uterus came out, and she had to be stapled back in. So she was very bad birthing, and so I had a cowl both with my the fluid sac and then the actual uterus covering me up. So I was psychic that way. But anyways, you are stardust. Every element was created in this heart of a star and seeded through the universe after a supernova. So, when your reflection phase shows. Yes, that's exactly true. Again, the best thing I can tell you is make yourself a black mirror. Just make yourself a black mirror and scry on it at least 15 minutes a day or night. No, don't try to overdo it. And the more you'll feel silly just looking into a black mirror over time with a candle, one or two candles on the offset, to the left or right, not too bright on the thing. But you'll start seeing lights or dots, and then clouds coming in, clouds coming out, and then you'll start seeing your face start to change. And then the more you do this, you'll start building up. So the steps to proper evocation to like a physical form, I gave you a little exercise mentally what to do. When you start scrying, the first thing you want to notice is just thoughts, random thoughts. Maybe even if you close your eyes, you might even see something at the back of your eyelids, right? Just like a TV screen, but it's at the back of your eyelids. When I close my eyes, I see it. It's not in the mirror, but it's in here. But then it moves in progression. It goes from here to the mirror, from the mirror to the physical world. And those are the proper steps one should do before one tries to perform a physical evocation to see the spirit physically. Yes, the crystal balls can help. For me, crystal ball didn't work too well until I got more experience. Yes, the mirror thing was my thing. Yes, I solved that problem by when I looked into the mirror by having various crystals, usually an amethyst, because as you know, it helps spirituality, and it's a quartz. So it's a power booster, helps in tune. I always held with me because I'm right-handed. I seem to take energy in with my left to project my right. So I'd hold the crystal in my hand and just kind of feel the grooves and get into a meditative state as I'm doing that with my intention looking into the mirror. You have no religion. Okay, so you're an agnostic, or do you believe in Jesus as a real figure? Or, I mean, I do believe in the power of his name, most definitely. My mom, I saw demons, actual physical demons, like the entity I saw disguised as a werewolf, for lack of a better word, disappear when she came around the corner. In the name of Jesus, this, name of Jesus, that. Then there was, of course, a time. I'll probably do a little video on this one too, but I watched a scary movie, right? And I was probably about maybe around 9, and I just felt bad. I was scared to go to sleep, so Mom prayed with me. And as a kid, I opened up my eyes, and when she was saying, literally, I rebuke, bind, and cast out all foul spirits in the name of Jesus Christ, I had my eyes open, and I saw a black figure, kind of like a shadow. And on the back side of this shadow, and it came complete with little pointy ears, this like static, like you'd see on like Channel 3, snowy just kind of trailed behind it as it left the house. Now understand, That doesn't mean that I believe that Jesus is absolutely a real figure. I believe he was a conduit. I believe if you prayed to Buddha with needs for protection, it amplifies it because you believe Buddha amplifies it. Uh, One's own innate power to tap into divinity because one is divine. It's just that people don't believe in themselves and they need somebody outside of themselves to try to reaffirm their belief, if that makes sense. So evil spirits can be cast out by any god that gives you protection, or at least in your thought. So yeah, I agree with you, Yamanu. That I believe mirror magic or scrying, mirror scrying is probably the best or the easiest for beginners. The crystal ball, though, you look more badass holding a crystal ball than you do a black mirror. Like, so. Yeah, my wife, in an evocation, there's I uploaded a video called the Bornless One, the incantation of the Bornless One. Now the Bornless One, it's on paper, it looks it's basically talking about the universe, the Almighty God, that all gods come from, everybody comes from, which is one reason why it's so easy for Christians to try to insert God in it because they believe in one God. But literally, this is a God or an entity. It might not even have a consciousness, but the universe itself that created all things is what you're tapping into. It's raw creative force when you summoning a spirit by authority. Okay, so but to make a long story short, what I'm getting at is that on paper, it's often drawn as an egg surrounded by a serpent. The bornless one, never been born, who holds a serpent in the hand, but anyways, to make a long story short, it's a damn egg with a serpent. And me and my wife were at the mall in North Carolina, and she bought for me for our anniversary a crystal ball that's wrapped around the serpent. So I got two crystal balls now. One's wrapped around the serpent, which the universe is telling me, because I just literally uploaded that video talking about the bornless one, and its imagery on paper is an egg, which I don't know where my crystal ball is. I'm doing some remodeling here, but the crystal ball could easily be seen as an egg. Yeah, yeah, you can do the same thing. Matter of fact, Nostradamus used that technique where he had a black bowl and filled it with water and filled it with ink. One of the things I often do when I use the water technique is I prick my finger with my diabetic needle, add a few drops of blood. So yeah. Well, I had fun. I don't know if I'm all tucked out or not, but if you guys wanted to see here, I'll show you that little thing that she got me, that little ball with a little serpent, but I have to go up there and get it. So, any more questions or? Well, I just want to say I really appreciate all of you for subscribing, watching my videos. I do this again. I like teaching and talking about this stuff, but in the end, I would really love feedback. I notice that I have a lot of subscribers, but no one really comments that much on my stuff. But they thumbs up. But so yeah, there's a certain part of my practices that I was trying to get back into, such as summoning spirits. And the whole reason why I did that, my whole necromancy series, was not for the likes or the votes. It was literally because I knew my father was dying, and I needed to brush up on what I used to do, because I'm 41 years old. I still see spirits randomly, literally walking through the house and so forth like that. But I haven't did a lot of spirit summoning for several years, and like I said, getting on here, talking about it, refreshing my own memory, and teaching at the same time. So this channel was not just to teach, but it's also to refresh certain things as I'm getting back into what the old Jerry used to do 10 years ago. I lost a lot of motivation when my mother died. When my mother died, I even now I haven't really fully recovered, and it's been over 10 years. So again, thank you for watching and whatnot. So Are you guys having conversations in the chat box here? So I don't want to end the live stream. Well, thank you, Ms. Sebastian Elena. Thank you. I think I do too. Listen for my channel for shout outs, because there's a lot of good people that are subscribed to me, like Comedic Witchcraft. She's got her own channel, and she had to restart her channel, otherwise she would have more subscribers than I do. So take a look at her if you haven't followed me from her channel, because she's giving me a shout. So as they use water. Oh yeah, that's I don't know exactly what if this matches what you're trying to talk about, Mr. Yamanu, but one of the techniques, especially for contacting a spirit, is you got to be in that altered state, and if you can't maintain an altered state when you're talking and walk around doing rituals, you have one person scrying and one person saying the incantations and the evocations, I guess you would say. So that's you might want to try that. Comedic, which so you practice with your meditations. If you start, you don't try to summon spirits when you're scrying. Obviously, you don't want to do that firsthand, because it could be startling, and you might be inviting a certain energy in the room that you wouldn't naturally do with just regular witchcraft. But when you start seeing images, like the lights and then the faces changing or whatever, just by basic scrying, then you try to get somebody if you just hit me up and I can give you what I use, some basic invocations out of the Goetia, but have them do the incantation to some of the spirit and you scry. So they're doing the evocation, and leaves you to just meditate and get to that altered state, so you don't have to worry about facing the east, facing the west, whole 9 yards. Okay. Operator versus the scryer, or go hand in hand. Sounds like it's an epic battle there. Operator versus the scryer. All right. Well, any questions not about magic, just about me? What do I do when I'm by myself? Do I pick my nose when no one's looking? I don't know. So no questions, right, or anything. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to end my stream, and I appreciate you guys refinding the lost RUL. Before I do this again, I'm going to be a little bit more up on the tech, and probably have an actual theme to start talking about, because I would like to have some of you guys as guests on my channel. So this is the forerunner for me to learn what I need to learn. All right, guys, y'all take care. Peace be with you. I don't even know how to freaking turn this off now. There you go. Bye.